Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. Alright, so this week we've got a few interesting things. Looks like we're getting dragons and, some other stuff, so I guess we should take a look. So yeah, dragons are back and they're going to change the mortal realms forever. Alright, well let's see what this is all about. So, we may think we've seen dragons fighting in the mortal realms, black dragons, zombie dragons, star drakes, and their ilk, but in truth, these are pale reflections of the ancient dragons of legend, those that predate even the coming of Sigmar and rise of chaos, the kin of Dracontheon himself. Okay, so basically old school dragons, sounds pretty cool. Interesting. So yeah, it looks like it's part of the story of Kragnos and so on. I think that they're the ones that he killed or whatever. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, you know. I think I talked about this. For me, Kragnos is kind of like Cartman, you know. he's just this spoilt brat that's running around, just stomping his feet and trying to get what he wants. And, it's an okay storyline, but it's very destruction anyway. So it's just a bunch of Cartmans running around. And this new dragon here, the blue one here, kind of feels a bit like another Cartman. But anyway, we'll see what his story is. But let's take a look at the model because that's what we're here to look at. And there he is. So, it's a really interesting thing. I think... Games Workshop has kind of chosen to go back down the more classical route, I guess, considering what Age of Sigmar was meant to be. There's sort of like a departure from, that old school style, and move into other kind of design spaces. But it looks like they're just playing up to the crowd, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. It's all good. There's going to be a lot of dragon people out there that really love this type of classic kind of dragon look. I think the addition of these little bejangles he's got on, the bracelet and so on, that's a little bit weird, but it's okay. I don't know. There's something kind of a little bit tacked on about these elements. The dragon itself is all fine. The anatomy, the sculpt, everything looks pretty cool, except for possibly the sort of strange smile that he's got on his face, which is a little bit odd, and the sort of Sean Connery dragon look that's going on there. But which is okay too. It's a bit of fan service. I like the colors they've chosen. It's a nice classic dragon. It's a well sculpted dragon. I like the design of it. But just an interesting design choice, I guess, considering how different some of the other models in the ranges are and how they've moved away from that necessarily classic fantasy thing and moving into other directions, but they're sort of coming back a bit around. I guess they want to appease some of the fans, and now that they're bringing back the Warhammer Old World as well in a few years' time, that's sort of, I guess, playing up to that kind of thing. I didn't notice before, but he's actually got a tattoo of the Sigmarite comet there on his chest, which is kind of interesting. So he's been branded, which seems a bit odd considering this guy's meant to be a prince. So Krondis, son of Dracontheon. So let's see what he's all about. So, but now with Sigmar's resurgence, two lost princes of that once magnificent civilization see a chance to return their order to greatness. The prince's affinity with Sigmar and the cause of the Stormcast Eternals makes their arrival a great boost for the forces of order, who are still reeling up from the effects of Be'lakor, shroud of dark magic, and the emergence of Kragnos. The Draconeth are about to put the grand alliance of death, destruction, and chaos on notice. Yeah. So we've got, I guess these are kind of like sort of demigod type creatures. So yeah, it's interesting. An integral member of Sigmar's inner circle, Krondis, is majestic, wise, and immensely powerful, already among the most magically potent beings in the mortal realms. Krondis also bears the regalia fulmentaris around his neck, a piece of armor that magnifies his substantial magical abilities. Yeah, so it sort of reminds me a bit more of like a tiara or something like that. This guy's got some very haughty kind of vibes going on. It's not really my flavor, but it is a nice sculpt. I think maybe this smirk or this smile, I'm not sure. I'd have to see the model. It's hard to tell right from just this, but I know there's going to be definitely dragon lovers out there that enjoy this type of look. So, that's cool. That's all good. It seems like he's on a pretty large base, so it's definitely one of those sort of pretty much god tier level monsters from the looks of it. It'll be interesting to see what rules they give these. This is kind of like the magical one. I'm assuming they're going to have a hero keyword. Definitely be a unique monster. So if they've got the hero keyword, that means they can use all of the new, hero reactions and so on in AOS 3, which is what you want. If they don't have that keyword, that makes them kind of useless. But if they've got those important keywords, and looks like he'll be some sort of caster or some sort of wizard with multicasting, I would imagine, considering the way they've talked him up. I'm guessing somewhere between 500 and 700 points, something like that, I guess, to be in line with the other ones, if he's going to be on their level. I'm talking about like Marathi and all those kind of like god tier characters, Nagash and so on, although they're a little bit higher points, but there's a bunch in that sort of 600 to 700 point range, so they might be along those lines, but we'll wait and see. It looks like they're going to be in the Stormcast book. And then on his chest, below his armor, Crondius is marked with a twin-tailed comet, a sigil which represents the allegiance between Sigma and Dragoneth. Filled with sadness and shame at the fall of the ancient Dragoneth empires to which he is heir, it is Crondius' great hope that in alliance with the Stormcast Eternals, his kin might once more rise to greatness. Yeah, okay. Then we've got the alternate, right? This is the sort of more, I guess, destruction orientated, or maybe slightly more evil dragon with the scar down his face and so on. Pretty cool, nice red dragon. Similar sculpt, but just slightly different, in some of the facial features there, the broken horn and so on. So yeah, pretty nice. Finding himself without an invite to Sigmar's party, Karazai has been scouring Gur, seeking vengeance for his scrambled kin, and wreaking havoc on the force of destruction. When a dragon spends too long in the realm of beasts, though, a little of that realm may also find its way into the dragon, and thus it is that Karazai has become a bitter and violent creature, all but consumed with wrath and revenge. But doesn't he strike a pose? Yeah, okay. So yeah, no, it's cool. They got a lot of character. That definitely has a lot of character. But I'm not sure about the smiling nature of them. I think that kind of is a little bit odd. I probably would have changed the jaw structure there. Sorry, that's one of my things. I'm a sculptor. If you don't know, if you only just seen this video for the first time, but I sculpt my own characters, my own brand, and I love jaw structures and like teeth designs and stuff like that. If you look at the link on this video to the Blight of Gods website, you'll see a bunch of all kinds of death related stuff and demons, and one of the things you'll notice is that I really enjoy sort of very toothy, mouthy sort of creatures and monsters. And yeah, I think I would have slightly changed a little bit of that, just where it kicks up. I would have probably changed that slightly so he doesn't end up with that sort of perpetual grin, but that's just me, that's my personal tastes. I might have even had some of his teeth, maybe just to make this guy even more cracked and weird, just have some of the teeth, some of the lip gone, and have some of these teeth actually growing outside the lip edge, so it's way more just hinting at a slightly more like that little bit of demon there, so you get that little bit more vicious quality to it, because it's hard to the rounded features here on the mouth soften the overall look, but when you remove that and you get this sort of lipless jaw structure, the whole creature becomes a lot more menacing. And I think maybe here that might have been nice just on alternate head for him, so just spend that time to add those teeth and maybe even lengthen them a little bit, like make him a little bit more a little bit more vicious overall. I understand that it's based off the one kit, so they can't do a lot of changes, but certainly for the head, I would think you'd want to just mix it up a little bit, just to give him a little bit more of a vicious look. But anyway, that's just a side note. But otherwise, it's really cool, like good dragon, if you like that sort of thing. So on the tabletop, the Dragoneth tower over the battlefield. Given their size and huge amount of detail to work with, Crondius and Karazai will serve as extraordinary centerpieces for an army, and as a fantastic painting project in their own right. And have no doubt the return of such powerful figures will have massive, far-reaching effects in the mortal realms, especially for the Stormcast Eternals, who benefit from Sigmar's pact with the Dragoneth. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll get, I'd like to see some other stuff along these lines, maybe some lesser creatures or some lesser characters that might be a bit more, have a bit more utility in the army and mix up the way Stormcast play. As I'm collecting them, if you've noticed on the channel, there's a bunch of how to paint, custom Stormcast there. You can learn how to do like colored brass and all that kind of stuff, and all those different sort of elements that I've got on those models. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun to paint. So I'm hoping for some nice, strong utility pieces to make the army work well. I'm assuming it will be, because as we all know, Games Workshop really do want them to be the Space Marines of the fantasy range, so let's hope they have the rules to make that a thing. But otherwise all pretty cool. It's looking pretty positive for Stormcast. Seems like they've got quite a wide variety of choices, so if anyone new getting into it, it seems like they're going to be a good choice for starting with AOS. But all really cool stuff. So that's not all we've got today. As my thumbnail would suggest, there is also the witches to go along with the dragons, right? So let's take a look. So the Hex Fire Battle Box pits Grey Knights Might against Thousand Suns sorcery. So yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. Now, it's not the kind of box that some of the others have been. From the looks that I have read through it, it doesn't sound like it's going to be like, I'm sure it's going to be a limited box, but it's not quite the same. It doesn't have the codex in it. It's got some crusade rules in there and that sort of thing, but I don't think this one is quite in the same vein as the Orc one, so I'm not sure how fast this one will sell out. It does have the limited models here that we've already seen before, that was showcased last week, but the rest of the models in the kit are all current models from the looks of it. So that's going to be probably a box that might stick around a little longer, and it does seem like the books, the codexes are going to come out soon after, so, or maybe at the same time. So it's more of a standard release from the looks of it anyway, of what they've been saying. So that's kind of cool. That means you won't have to rush out, because I think everything in this box you can pretty much get. It's just a question of when these two characters might end up becoming available as single models, or whether they're just going to be in this box and that's it. It's kind of hard to say. I'm sure they will come out on their own, but it looks like initially they'll just be in the box. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, I got a feeling that this box isn't going to be quite as, highly sought after as some of the other ones. Unless you're like a die-hard fan, then you might pick it up just for these two characters. But yeah, so if you missed it, we teased a clash between the Thousand Suns and Grey Knights way back during Warhammer Fest, and we've shown off both an incredible updated Castle and Crow and Zentep, or whatever his name is, Corazon. Okay, I didn't actually see his name on the last news clip, but anyway, there you go. Infernal Master of the Thousand Suns. Yep. Okay, so now we can reveal the full contents of the Hex Fire battle box. You'll find a 40-page campaign book detailing the battle for control of Hexenfast, a gas giant that now plays host to an open warp fissure, infesting it with demonic entities. You'll find data sheets for all the models in the box, of course, but also crusade rules, including campaign-specific battle scars, relics, and battle traits. These are a cool way to show the lasting effects of the battle for Hexenfast. Okay, so yeah, so it won't have the codex inside of it, but it'll have those two limited models. So yeah, pretty cool. You're getting, so it'll show the two forces here. So we've got, you got one of the walkers, couple of squads, and the special character. Pretty nice. It looks like it's a legal force, which is good, and or combat, force. And then here we've got the same thing. Couple of troops, an elite unit, and the characters for the Thousand Suns. So yeah, that's a nice box. It's a nice little starter box if you're getting into it and you wanted to maybe collect these two or one of them. That's not bad, depending on what the price is. That's always a thing with these, right? It's hard to say whether it's going to be priced well or not, considering how quickly the prices go up. But it could be a cool offer. We'll wait and see. Sometimes those boxes are priced a little bit more economically because they're geared towards new players. So hopefully it'll be done that way. But the most important thing is the codexes will be coming. We'll tell you all about the books a little later on. Make sure so they haven't said exactly when, but we know it's coming very soon. So that's nice that at least for this one, the Orcs, unfortunately, you had to wait for your codex if you didn't get that limited edition box, the snagger box. But for these, it looks like they're not doing it that way, which is a nice thing, because creating that thing of the haves and the have-nots isn't really great, right? You want to have access to your toys, and it's nicer to bring them out all together. So for those that don't want that box, it looks like the codexes are coming along with it at some point, at least very, very soon, within probably a few weeks of each other. So that's really cool. It'd be interesting to see how they take these two factions, especially, considering in the past how much potential, mortal wounds some of these units can do. The Grey Knights had a little bit of a stint there for a little while. Thousand Sons also have access to some pretty interesting stuff, and, how they're going to hold up compared to the other factions that are out at the moment. I feel like if they are going in the same power creep, then they should be a real big check to the other factions because of their access to those psychic powers and how potent they can be. But we'll wait and see just exactly which way the wind blows on these. It would be nice to see, because obviously, as we all know, or if you don't know, 40k's in a bit of a weird spot, at least competitively. It's got some pretty dominant factions that are controlling most of the games and the tournaments and so on, which doesn't make it that much fun for people that are outside of those factions. I don't mind, as I've said in a previous one, it was in the hobby chat I did on Soulblight, when I talked about like when Codex come out, I don't mind them coming out a little stronger, but there is a difference between coming out a little stronger and then just being like way too strong. There is a real fine line there, and it's a hard thing to ride that line. But so I don't mind if these come out a little stronger. Same with the Orcs, as long as they're able to then fact them and bring them back into line, a bit like how they've done with Dark Elder, at least a little bit, just pulling back some of the rules and so on. That's a good thing. And, just slowly working that in. You saw that with Death Guard as well, between the end of 8th edition and beginning of 9th. They changed that Poxmonger relic, so it wasn't stupidly broken and made everything really, really awesome. A little bit sad to see that go, but they just did a very subtle change, and that pretty much altered the whole way that army worked and the structure. And then obviously they've changed resilience and so on to a different kind of thing. So just little changes like that can just do a big difference to the overall book, even though structurally it can be a very strong sound book. And that's what I talked about in that particular video. Is you want to make sure that as long as the core structure of the book is sound, then you can do those kind of nerfs and it doesn't actually ruin the book. They can still be competitive. Like Death Guard is still able to win games, still able to take them to tournaments. They're still perfectly fine. Maybe not as strong as some of the ones at the moment, but they have the tools there to be a good faction. And that's really what you want. You just want to make sure that basic structure is still good. And you see it a lot in AOS as well. You'll see books that have the Idoneth Deepkin, they've only had like a book, their one book, I think, for the whole now 3 editions of the game, and it's still competitive. If that core structure is good, it doesn't matter how many nerfs they get, doesn't matter how much you play around, as long as you don't change that core fundamental design principles for that army, it should still play well. And that's something to consider. So hopefully, at least the structure of these books is good, and it will allow players to actually enjoy it, even if they do have to nerf them or bring them back in line. You'll still feel like you're having fun, because that's the most important thing, right? It's always really, really sad when a book comes out and it just doesn't meet your expectation and it just fails to deliver. And even just for your casual games, it just lacks that flavor, like the feeling that you should have when you're playing them. They feel like the thing that they're meant to be. That's like a really important thing. That synergy between the background, the lore, the flavor of them, and how they actually play. And if you can sync those two things up, it doesn't matter how strong or weak the faction is, it can be really enjoyable. But usually when you sync them up, it does actually make them quite competitive and quite strong. So that's an interesting thing, that most books that do meet that criteria are often the stronger choices and usually more satisfying to play without being totally broken. Often the really broken books tend to be a little bit hollow. You need some drawbacks, because that's part of the human psyche. We don't like things always to be perfect. It's that old Matrix thing from the Matrix movies, if you're old enough to ever watch those. That they talk about that when they're making the digital world for the humans, that they made it perfect the first time, and the humans didn't like it. They mistrusted it. They couldn't handle the perfection. They needed that bit of they need a little bit of grime on the polish. You can't handle it to be always perfect. You need something There's got to be a downside, right? Because that's part of life. Life isn't perfect. We have ups and we have downs. Certainly now in this day and age, we're certainly feeling it, right? Wherever you are around the world, there's a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs. But that's an integral part of life, and that's something that's true for every single living organism and entity that is on the planet. That we all suffer through high times and low times, and so when you're playing these games, that little bit needs to be in there that simulates that life experience, because that's what we connect with. And I think that's a core philosophy for design that needs to be there. So hopefully that they're learning from these new books, and most of them are very well made. Like, they are good. It's just some of them have just been pushed a little bit too far, too high, and that's in both games. We're seeing that with god tier monsters in AOS as well. Just some of those rules are going a little bit too over the top, and they just need to be pulled back a little bit, at least in my opinion. And then you'll end up with, because the core structure is not, pretty damn spot on. Like, the rule books are really great. They are doing a really good job of getting it to a point where it's pretty clean and pretty well made. It's just that there's those few little spikes, and if you just rein them in a little bit, you should end up with something that's as close to perfect as you want, but not completely perfect, right? So yeah, that's my 2 cents waffle on that little topic. I hope that was not too unbearable to listen to. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit that like button, subscribe button if you have, and I'll be looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with these guys and how well they go. All right, well, I'll catch you on the next one, guys.